right, everybody, man. I got a sister on the channel. She looking good. She got backdrop. I know she's a heavy hitter out of her town. And I'm super excited that she has come on the channel to share with you some Black history that I know is gonna blow your mind. I'm Anthony Brogdon, and at Strong Inspirations, where we give it to you straight, no chaser, I let these people intoxicate you. And some of it is so good, not all of it, that it make you stumble when you get up from watching this. You stumble. Let me tell you, I've even cried to hear the resilience of some of the stories told of our forefathers and what they endured. Like, let me tell you this, I cried sort of when I had this guy on the channel who, and you gotta watch this video, he said his grandfather was in the KKK and killed the guy. And he said when he found this out, he never spoke to him again. He said, and it's a white guy too, my friends. He said the white people jumped him, tried to beat him up because he was teaching in a black school. I said, well, man, I got to ask you, my man. I said, what did that do for you? Did you stop? He said, no, it made me stronger. No, I didn't stop. I went harder. Watch that video. I got a video on the channel where the guy says they had his grandfather at the tree and was about to lynch this brother. Let me tell you just a tad of the backdrop. Sister waiting, and I got to tell you this because on my mind. What happened was the man, white guy, he come to the house. He's the insurance man. He want to collect the premium. The mother said, I don't have it right now. I'm sorry. Can you please come back? The guy smacks her. He smacks him back, kicks him out the house. White man come to the house with a buddy of his a few hours later and rape her in the crib. Come back a few hours later because the husband know who it is. He mad, you know, he huffing and puffing. I'm gonna just take this one for the team. I'm gonna look for this guy. The guy come back with the KKK, kick in the door. They beat my man up in the house in front of the kids, drag him out of the house naked, take him to the tree. But the guy's a Mason, did a Mason distress call, and another white guy and a white guy under the hood let him go. And he ends up fleeing out of Troy, Alabama, and he ends up coming up here to Detroit. I know the young man who tells this story. The sister I got on the channel, watch out, she gonna blow your mind. I had some conversation with her. She said, I got a ton of stories in a small town, just not far from where they fire off them rockets and spaceships and stuff. She said the thing's still standing all the time. Now, you all know I'm serious about this Black history. I don't have the DVD with me. I do apologize, but I've done a documentary called Business in the Black, The Rise of Black Business in America. I'm telling you how slaves learned how to read and write, how slaves had businesses, and I named names, and how rich slaves got Black folks back in those days, and they used the profits to buy their freedom. I did not know that. If they told me that in class, I had to be asleep. I never heard them stories. And I was pretty decent student. But when I found out, I said, I gotta share this. So go to Amazon, businessintheblack.net. And now this I do have with me because I sleep with this under my pillow, is a book I wrote titled Black Business Book. My sales is up. I can feel it. I want to sell a lot of them, not just for the money, because also every 10th book I sell, I donate one to a school. I want others to hear this, very reasonably priced, similar to the movie, but more facts. I'm telling you, I got stories of Black people who back in slavery days, like this one lady, Elizabeth Keckley, she was so tight on her dressmaking that she became Abraham Lincoln's, is it Lincoln? Yeah, Abraham Lincoln's wife's best friend, making her dresses. Check it out. The stories like that you don't know. Black guy had a car manufacturing company in 1905. He was competing against Ford and he was beating him. He was beating Ford in the car company. You know, cars was cuter and fancier. Sunroofs and all. My man right here. You know how the brothers do. He probably had a way you can lean back and have your arm out the window. In 1905, called C.R. Patterson. I interviewed his great granddaughters. They own the channel. Look for that video. So get you a copy. Check me out on all I'm doing on my website, businessintheblack.net. If you can, Memorial Day weekend, come on down to Kansas City, Kansas for my Black History Festival. We're going to walk where the slaves walked. We're going to hear the voices in what I would like to say is America's largest underground railroad site. In Quindaro is the name of the town. Now, check me out. I'm on Twitter at A Strong Dream. I got Facebook page called Strong Inspirations, Black History Then and Now, Black Business Book. I do all that social media stuff. So I'm jamming. And then, you know, my favorite word is the word strong. I love it. It stands for what I'm trying to do is stay strong. And in my world, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. Check it out. That defines my guest today. She's a strong sister out of that warm climate. I ain't jealous. It's warm here today. I'm in Detroit, everybody. She's out of that warm climate, but she's dedicating her life to showing people what has happened and tell it straight. So come on, beautiful lady, introduce yourself. I thank you a whole lot for spending time with me here at Strong Inspirations.
Well, Anthony, thank you so much for this opportunity. Hello, everyone. My name is Sonia Millard. I am the Cultural Center Coordinator at the Harry T. and Harry V. Moore Memorial Park and Museum, right here in the lovely city of Mims, Florida. We're right here on the Space Coast in Florida, yes, by NASA, where the rockets and the spaceship goes up to explore and take out satellites. But more importantly, we're here sharing the legacy of the Moors. Who were and who is Harry T. and Harry V. Moore?
Okay, let me
a lot of people don't know.
Stop you there because you about to roll, and I got to catch you before you roll. Because I got to ask a couple questions about you personally. Okay. I hope you don't mind. Where are you from originally?
I'm from New York City. I'm from Harlem, really? Born and raised.
Okay, all right. We're gonna stay on that then. You from Harlem?
I'm from Harlem.
Did you know the Harlem stuff? You know the Harlem Renaissance type stuff. You saw the blackness, the black beauty of Harlem.
Oh yeah, grew up in it. I was born and raised on 140th Street between Amsterdam and Broadway. Went away. My parents bought their first home in Long Island. Went to college, came back, and I chose Harlem for my place to raise my children, right? So I lived on 139th Street between Lenox and 5th, and then saved some money for 5 years and bought a house, of course, in Jersey. But yeah, Harlem is definitely in my blood strong.
All right, how about this one? Now, because it is, was it a culture shock to leave Harlem to go to Long Island?
What? Let me tell you something. When your parents tell you that they're gonna buy a house, right? So we had to all agree on this house. And my parents every Saturday would put us in the car. And I was like, Dad, what train do my friends take to come out here? Was it the A train? Was it the D train? Was it the #1 train? He said, oh no, Sonia, they're not taking the subway. They got to take the Long Island Railroad. I thought I would die. You know, the people didn't have $5 back then. Yeah. I was like, the Long Island Railroad? I couldn't believe it. And when we moved out there, we were the second Black family to move in that area. Oh, really? And matter of fact, when my parents signed and said they wanted a home, the realtor received a phone call, and you could tell the look on his face. And my father said, "Was that about the house?" And we called this house the Green Carpet House. And he said, "Yeah, they didn't want those niggas out there."
Really?
Now, my parents was going to work in the city, and we were going to be in school, me and my brothers, right? So it was three of us. Well, four of us all together, three brothers and myself. And my father was like, "Oh, I don't know." But they settled on this house on Manatuck Boulevard behind Intimates. I'll never forget it. And when I realized I had to take a yellow school bus to school, nah, I thought I was Angela Davis. My afro was out the hair. It was power to the people for me. And I was like, I'm not getting on no yellow school bus. And I learned how to drive from that moment on. And I drove to school every day. But it was a cultural shock. Let me tell you something. I was already
in that area?
formed.
Who's living there? What kind of are they? Greeks or Germans or what? Yeah, in that neighborhood.
I didn't know what they were. They was just white people. They was really Irish and Italians that lived there. And I'll never forget my baby brother, I had to take him to the bus stop. And all the white people sitting out there at the bus stop, and me and my brother came out, and this little white boy said, "Ma, look at him. He's dirty." I almost lost my mind. I said, "Dirty?" I said, "He's not dirty. He's Black." I said, "Y'all need to learn some culture out here." And that's when I realized that this thing was real about Black and white people. Because, when you're in the city and I'm in Harlem, we see each other. We're around each other. It was a melting pot. It was a different kind of mentality. But moving to Long Island in the suburbs, it was a line in the sand out there.
Now let's go back though. But being in Harlem, were you sheltered against racism, or did you still have some vibe of it because the white people who lived in Harlem lived in those few blocks, and everything else was Black? How did that go?
Oh, when I lived in Harlem, we had Black people, white people in my building, Chinese people, Jewish people. It was a melting pot. Okay. I wasn't sheltered. I didn't think I was, right? Yeah. But now when I look back in hindsight, now I could see how they had the boundaries, right? So really the white people was on Riverside Drive and going down by the water, right? Okay. We were up more on 7th Avenue, 8th Avenue, Lenox Avenue. We was in there. Then the Spanish people was on Lexington Avenue, 3rd Avenue. So they had different places for everybody. That's what it really was. But when you went to school, you saw everybody. It wasn't a difference, right? Except the school teachers. I had 2 Black school teachers. My gym teacher, I'll never forget it, and one Black man named Mr. Brown. Didn't realize the teachers didn't look like me, right? That was something that I recognized at an early age.
Well, I want to stay on this now, on the Harlem tip for a second. Growing up in Harlem, that you got brothers that's conscious. Did you hear them making speeches on the street that Malcolm was coming through? Stokely Carmichael might be hanging out, that kind of thing?
Listen, all the time. People would just have their blowhorn, be on the corner talking about this, talking about that. That was just something that was prevalent at that time. It was just something that I thought was normal, right? Even down to the number man. It was a number man called Chip Charlie in my neighborhood. He was from Jamaica, but he would come out, and we didn't even have rap then, right? He would go, "Chip Charlie is my name, and love is my game." And he would always spin out different facts about being Black and being proud. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I learned at a young age to be proud of who we were, right? And to be honest, it wasn't a Black and white thing. What it begat when I was in junior high school, it became Blacks against Puerto Ricans, right? In that area. Because then we had to go up to the Dykeman area, junior high school 143. So they used to have fights then and, separation. But it wasn't so much a Black and white thing till I moved to the suburbs.
Yeah, and you mean Long Island? That's called
correct in Long Island. Correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so did you assimilate there and have a white friend
in Long Island?
Yes.
I'm gonna be very honest with you. I had one white friend. I'm that person, but it took me a long time. I didn't bother with anyone. I thought the Blacks out there was stuck in a routine, right? They were scared to death to say anything. I was too outspoken for them, right? So I used to argue with this white boy every day with blonde hair and blue eyes. I mean, we went at it every day. He just thought he could say what he wanted against blacks and nobody said anything. I had a problem with that. Oh yeah, and sometimes I'll be the only black in the classroom, right? I had to let them know I wasn't sitting in the back of the room. Rosa Parks is dead.
I love
Her feet was tied, but I'm not tied. I sat in the front. So I did a lot of things that was against the norms during that time. But they had to see, like, you know, we wasn't scared. We just wasn't scared. The next door neighbor to us moved, put up a for sale sign at his house. My father knocked on his door and said, "You moving because of us?" He was like, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, have a safe time. You know, have a safe trip."
Yeah, okay, dig it. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna go back just a tad bit further because you Black history person. Well, how did your family? Where's the plantation at in your family? Do you know that?
Oh, I know it. Listen, history is important to me. You know how they did us when you was in New York. School ended on June 30th. The 31st, we was on the first thing out of here in the car to go to South Carolina.
Oh, really?
So, you know, my father was from Charleston, South Carolina. My grandmother lived there. And let's just talk about this for a minute.
Sure.
Packed us up, went down there. Now, I thought my family was still slaves, right? Because it was a whole different mentality about being in the South. You know, it was two things. My grandmother was trying to keep me in the house with her to learn how to cook and do all this stuff. I was a tomboy. I wasn't trying to cook no biscuits, learn how to do them peas and clean some collard greens. I wanted to play with my brothers outside, right? But I've learned then. So my grandmother was one of 13 children, right? But my great grandmother was still alive. So we would go to Santee, and she lived in this.
Hold on, Santee, what's that?
Santee, South Carolina, a town in South Carolina.
Oh, really?
Before you blink your eye, you out the town. So you, right? The house went up and the house went down. That's the first time I ever went to an outhouse. I didn't know what an outhouse was. I had to go to the bathroom and they said, "Okay, hold on." They went and got like a lantern, you know, carrying a lantern, and we go outside in the pitch black. I couldn't even see my hand. The bugs flying. I'm thinking, oh, this is the South, right? We opened up this door and it was just this hole. And they said, "Okay, go in there." I said, "Go in there and do what?" They was like, "Go to the bathroom." Let me tell you something. I almost ended up in the hospital. When I say I held myself,
really,
except for number one. Number two, I wasn't sitting in no hole. I didn't understand what my mother and them didn't prepare us about the South, right? Then in the morning before you ate, you had to feed the hogs. So my grandmother gave me this big old pot. Tell me, "Go out there and feed the hogs." The what? You know I ain't see no hogs. I'm from Harlem, right? We saw pigeons and rats. I went out there, I threw the whole bucket out there because they came running towards me. You know, I just threw it over the fence and went running. I said, I fed them. She said, "Where's the pot?" I said, "In there with the hogs." Oh boy, I was something. Me and my brothers, we had a lot to learn about country living, right?
I can't imagine.
But my great grandmother, last name was Harmon, and she lived on the plantation where they picked the cotton. So before we could eat dinner, let me tell you something about picking cotton. I can't understand how our ancestors did it, right? First of all, I didn't know cotton had those thongs on the side of it, right? They don't show you that. So when you're picking it, you had to do it in a way where it didn't pick your fingers, right?
That's right.
But you would get blisters and start bleeding. The other thing was that they had the cotton sack around you, a potato sack rather. And you had to put the cotton in there. Come on, somebody. How you gonna put cotton in a potato sack? You know how long that took all day to fill up? That's why them slaves worked from sunlight to sunset, because you couldn't even fill up a whole bag of cotton. When I say backbreaking, I said, "Oh, they might." I know the slave owner would have killed me.
So did you try it at one point? Did you try to pick a cotton at one point?
I did. I had to pick it before we could eat dinner. I told my mother she didn't come get us. They were still slaves and we had to get out of there. True story. I have a different kind of feelings for my ancestors. I don't understand how they did it. And they had the babies on their back. and the slave masters on horses and stuff while they picking that cotton. That was some brutal hard work. People talking about we working hard. No, we didn't work like they worked.
Yeah,
that was sun up, and plus calling us names. Can you imagine being called names all day?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, right. Well,
that's a mental breakdown.
That's right. What was the plantation like though? What was it? The big house with the pillars and all that. What do you remember? What the house place?
Not for us. We had a shack. We had a shack on the land. It was nothing but rows and rows of just cotton. Rows and rows, as far as your eye could see. I just can't imagine. Can you imagine the snakes out there and all of that?
Yeah, that's right.
Come on. It was brutal. I just can't imagine. And that's why even in the museum today, we have cotton here. And actually Cassandra Wright, my assistant, and Sharon Winslow, who works with us as well, is getting ready to put a cotton presentation together, exhibit to show people, because a lot of people don't realize the effect of cotton, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Let me ask you this. So now, you don't have any dangerous, violent stories in your family, like the white man made your great grandfather leave in the middle of the night? Is that why they came to New York or anything like that?
No, but my mother's mother and father, they lived in Georgia and they were sharecroppers, right? And they left in the middle of the night to come to Harlem because they knew that would be a better life for them, right? Let me tell you something. I never knew. My grandfather had a newspaper in his hand my whole life. I never knew until I got to college that my grandfather couldn't read and write. I was shocked. I was reading the Delaney sisters, this book about the Delaney sisters, and they had the old quotes in there, right? And I said, Grandpa, they were saying things like stories you was telling us. Read it on page such and such. He said, girl, get that book away from me. That's when it hit me in my heart. And when I got home to Long Island that day, I said to my mother, Ma, Grandpa can't read. I didn't understand. How did he get his driver's license? He read it, he looked at a newspaper like he was reading a newspaper every day of his life. And let me tell you something else. He was a super on 46th Street, right? I'll never forget it. I remember the time I heard this white man call him boy. I had a problem with that. We talking about 1971.
Yeah.
And I was like, boy, that's my grandfather. You better call him Mr. Claude Mulkey. And my grandfather said, don't say nothing, Sonia. So that's how racism was embedded into generation after generation, right? And then if you see the mental capacity of our people, it was just like, don't make no waves. Just let's go on. We don't want to make no waves.
That's right.
I made the waves. I was like, I know they crazy. They're not going to dress you like that. Like,
no, let me ask you this question though. But one of the things that I come to conclude is that when I talk to people who stayed in the South and grew up there, they did understand that when they came north, that the racism and the segregation, they didn't think, they thought we didn't have that, right? And then when they heard that, well, we were living in such shacks and stuff like that up north, that was their conclusion that, okay, we ain't got it that bad. And we got a better sense of family. We eat together at dinner time, so on and so forth. When you went down there, did you at least feel that love of the black, among the black people that maybe you might not have seen in New York? You follow my question?
I think that's according to your family. My family, we ate dinner every day at 6 o'clock together. And my father discussed, how was your day? And each one of us told him how our day was. We had that. We grew up with that. And then you know how August came, family reunion. We went 95 South to our family reunion. So we always had our family reunions. We always understood our heritage. We knew where we came from. Yeah. It's sad that some people really didn't, but I can't say that myself. We did. Let me tell you about the racism in New York though. What it was hidden, right? Because you got to remember, the hoods came off. They was wearing business suits.
That's right.
So they did it other ways, by not promoting you in a company, by not giving you a raise in a company, by making sure that if you wanted this house in this town, it went up another $50,000 where you couldn't afford it, right? That's why they had affirmative action. That's why they did those things, because we didn't have fair access to the table, right? That was the racism that was really in New York. And think about it. Then we had the mafia. So the unions, many Blacks wasn't in those unions. We didn't get that. They closed up the sanitation department. They owned that, right? So what did? We took the other jobs, right? Until we started getting our kids to get an education and get a degree and get a foot in the door. That's how it was for us.
I love it. Now, let me ask you this then. As a result of that, what got you to liking Black history? I mean, you shared a bunch of stories now, but you dedicate yourself to this. What got you here?
You know what got me here? I think I've always been here. I love my race. I love my people. I was always the type of person that felt like, you know how you always said, pull yourself up by your bootstrap?
Right.
But I believed in it takes a village to raise a child, right? I remember the first time in my building that we had a single parent move in my building and what that looked like. I remember my mother and her friends in the building talking about that floozy. Well, I wanted to know who was the floozy. And she had bright red hair like this, right? And came in with her 2 girls and boy, but didn't have a husband. That's what a floozy was, right? And that was the first time I ever saw a single parent. So what I always did, my mother always worked in the community, right? She believed in giving back to the community, helping the community, helping people. So I think it was embedded in me always, right? And my thing is this, it doesn't matter how much education you get. How can you forget where you came from? How can you forget the struggles of your people and your family? How can you not like the color of your skin? How could you not care about the shoulders that we standing on today? They forged this path for us. How dare us neglect that?
So now you go to college. Where'd you go to college?
University of South Carolina.
Oh, from
Let me tell you why, though. Let me tell you why. A lot of people talk about the HBCUs and all of that. And I understand that. And I probably would have went. But you know what? I was already in Long Island with these white folks. They really thought they was better than me. And I'm going to be honest. I didn't start learning until I went to high school out there. I didn't know what a Canterbury tale was. I didn't know what literature was. I didn't know what analogies was until I got out there. And they just thought they was better than me. So I always studied hard then because I wanted to compete with them. So I didn't want them to say that I had a watered down degree, right? I wanted someone to say, oh, she's a bad sister. She competed with the best of them. So that's why I chose the University of South Carolina. Again, it was in South Carolina. I got family around. My oldest brother went there. So I felt protective. I was next to the HBCUs where I met my husband, Benedict College. So I had the best of both worlds. And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to compete with them. And you know how it go, Anthony. We had to work 3 times harder. We had to be 10 times better. You know how that go. You pick up a telephone. You had to put on what they call your little white voice. You know how we did.
Yeah, for sure. So now did you study history or something like that?
No, matter of fact, I studied criminal justice because I was tired of all my brothers getting locked up, going to jail, didn't know their rights. Nobody was advocating for them. So I wanted to be a lawyer. You know, my path had deterred and my life happened, right? Never became that lawyer, but I still feel that I'm helping people, right?
So that's what you're doing. You do what now? Go back to the name of the center. Is it a museum? Okay. Tell us about it.
So I wear many hats, but one of the hats that I'm most proud of is that I'm the culture center. It's supposed to be director, but they call me culture center coordinator, right? So I oversee the museum. And this is the legacy of Harry and Harriet V. Moore, right? I never heard of them. I thought I missed school that day. They were the first civil rights activists in the state of Florida, husband and wife. I was like, where did they come from?
Yeah, well, this is when?
In 1951. Listen, Harry T. Moore had the audacity to do the unthinkable for a time that it wasn't prevalent for Black people to do. Let me make sure we're clear. He investigated every lynching that took place in the state of Florida. Now, Anthony, I don't know about you, but I thought Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama.
No question.
was #1 in lynching, but it was Florida.
It was Florida. That's right. I heard that.
It blew my mind. So when I look at these trees outside, I always say, if those trees could talk, Harry T. Moore threw himself into every lynching that took place in the state of Florida. You know he was a marked man.
No
He took the first lawsuit to Brevard Public Schools. Black teachers and white teachers wasn't making the same amount of money. So him, his wife, and his good friend John Gilbert took a lawsuit to Brevard Public Schools. Guess who was the lawyer?
Ooh.
Thurgood Marshall.
Oh my God.
He will come out here to this city called Mims and they will strategize. Now, you know, they lost the first lawsuit, but they eventually won the war, right? And after, I'm proud to tell you this, after 70 years of, and you know, they fired them, right? Because they called them troublemakers. They fired them from the school board. And that's when schools were segregated, right? Black teachers had to teach Black children. White teachers couldn't teach Black children, right? Hatred was so real back then, they wouldn't even store the school books. Let me make sure we're clear, Anthony. Blacks would go to school 2 to 3 months out the school year. They would say, close the colored school. We don't have no more colored school money. You know why they did that. So you can go out there and pick those oranges and pick that cotton for labor, right? While the white kids can go to school during the whole duration of the school year. That's why when school kids come here, I make sure I get on them. I make sure they understand. First of all, especially our kids, they want to sit in the back of the room. They want to put their hoodies on. They want to act like this is no big deal. They come in there like this. By the time they leave out, they sitting up, their shoulders are squared. They understood the history. They understood the fact that they were standing on shoulders of someone that came before them. We have to teach them. They didn't even know what segregation really was, or the Jim Crow ever. It was crazy, right? And that's why we have to educate our youth and educate our people. That's right. Because if you don't know where you came from, you definitely don't know where you're going.
Let me ask you this then. Hold on. Let's go back on this one though. So now he's doing this in Mims. What's the makeup of Mims? Is Mims a predominantly Black town inside of another town, on the side of a town?
Mims is a town of itself, right? It's unincorporated. However, he had the audacity to live on the white side of town. You know how they have that train track in every town, right? Yeah, and you go across that train track. Well, our train track was Old Dixie Highway. And my question was, where did a Black man get land from during that time? Well, we had to research this. Harriet's mother gave them land for their marriage, right? They hid their marriage from them for 6 months, gave them an acre of land, and they built their house. But it was on the white side of town. Oh, you know they was upset. They said, who is this Negro? He's too big for his britches. Them Klansmen came out here. So not only was Harry T. Moore taking lawsuits to the public schools, investigating the lynchings, he had the nerves to teach his students how to cast ballots. He understood the power of the vote.
Did they come after him? Did they ever try?
What? Not only did they come after him, Anthony, he was a marked man. He got a piece of literature from New York City. He said, this is what I've been waiting for. And it was the NAACP. Do you know he had the audacity to open up NAACP branches throughout the state of Florida? He had to travel the back roads, couldn't even relieve himself in the bathroom. Oh, they wanted to kill him. He kept a little pistol in his glove compartment. He got over 116,000 Blacks registered to vote. He was making too much noise down here. They had to send the Klansmen after him. He was the first paid executive director. Huh?
They didn't get him, did they?
What? December 25th, 1951. What day is December 25th, Christmas. Anthony?
Christmas.
You know how we celebrate Christmas. Come on now. Presents. Food. Okay. You got that one uncle that come over. Well, they celebrated Christmas like you and I, for one exception. They wasn't going to open up their presents because their baby girl was coming home from Washington, D.C. So they went over Old Dixie Highway to their family house, and they ate and they laughed, and then they came back home. Not only was it Christmas, it was their 25th wedding anniversary. But something evil was lurking in the groves, and it was the KKK. Somebody gave the layout to Harry T. Moore's house. They knew where the bathroom was at. They knew where the kitchen was at. They even knew where his bedroom was at. Anthony, my brother, you may sleep on the left side of your bed and I may sleep on the right, and someone may sleep in the middle of their bed, but Harry T. Moore slept on the right side of his bed. Listen, the Klansman was out in the groves smoking a cigarette. DNA reports from the FBI files. His mother was visiting from Jacksonville. His oldest daughter was there. And when they came back from Christmas night, he celebrated his anniversary with his wife with a little cake, and he wanted to dance a little bit, right? That night they was going to bed, his mother said to him, Harry, you got to stop this foolishness. You're going to get yourself killed. He said to his mother, Ma, what's the price of freedom? They went to bed. About 10:20 p.m., boom! They said that was the loudest bomb heard around the world. Anthony, people from as far as Scotchmore came running, Titusville, they thought NASA blew up. They said, Professor Moore's house, Professor Moore's house. That dynamite was so explosive, the Klansmen crawled under the house like a snake and lit that dynamite. Harry and Harriet bodies lifted off the bed into the ceiling, imprinted and caved into the ground. They couldn't dial 911. It wasn't a hospital. No, they couldn't dial 911. It wasn't a hospital here that would see a black man. They had to dig Harry and Harriet out the crevices. They picked up their limp bodies, stuffed them in his 1947 Ford Model A car.
They who?
The black people that came running, family members, and drove him to the city of Sanford. By the time they got there, you know that pedal to the metal, it took them over an hour. Harriet was frantic. Doctor, do something. My husband. Dr. Starks was waiting. It had a needle this big. Gave Harry a needle on his side. He was dead on arrival. Harriet had to be hospitalized. Remember, the daughter was coming home on the train. The next day, all aboard Titusville, she picked up her bags. She was so happy to be coming home to see her mother, coming home to love, safety, comfort, and some good food. She didn't see her mother and father. She was looking, and all of a sudden she saw her aunt and her uncle. So she followed them. She just assumed her parents were busy. They got in the car. The uncle was driving. They didn't say anything. Eerily quiet. Finally, the uncle turned around and said, Evangeline, I might as well tell you, they killed your daddy. They bombed your house, and now we're going to the hospital to see your mother. Can you just imagine that, Anthony? Everything that you've known has just been blown up because of the color of your skin.
Yeah, sure. So he gets killed in that scenario. Did anything happen to the Klan?
Absolutely not. 3 great tragedies, Anthony. 1, they were murdered. 2, the murderers were never brought to justice. And 3, perhaps the greatest of them all, they were left out of history books from great people like you and I. Watch this. Remember, it happened in 1951. So it was before the Brown versus the Board of Education, before we turned on our televisions and saw the hoses being poured on our people with the dogs biting them, before Rosa Parks said her feet was tied, before Martin had a dream, before Malcolm X said, by any means necessary, before Medgar Evers. Harry T. and Harry V. Moore was the first civil rights activists throughout the land, right? Why was they forgotten in history?
Okay, we're gonna change that. How about this one? What happened to what happened to her? Did she survived it and lived on?
Nope. Listen to this. At that hospital, she was bleeding internally. The doctor told her, you can't go to your husband's funeral. Imagine being married 25 years and you're not going to your husband's funeral. Make sure you're clear, Anthony. There wasn't a florist shop here that would send flowers to a black man's funeral. I know you can say, come on, Sonia. Just read the facts. Guess where they got flowers from, Anthony? They shipped flowers all the way from Miami to the city called Mims. Is that crazy? In death, hatred was that real. Harriet signed herself out the hospital, went to her husband's funeral, and died 9 days later.
Oh, my God.
They were the first husband and wife activists that died in the line of duty.
Yeah, okay, how about this? Do you all, okay, no. What happened to that house? Is it a monument now? Is that where the museum is or something like that?
We're on the homestead of the Moores. We have a yellow replica house because that house got blown to pieces. We got a replica of the house through grant funding on the property. We're now, at the time of their death, they had 4 acres of land, right? Now we on 12 acres for the sake of the museum. We get paid by the county.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we have the replica house, we have a gazebo, we have a civil rights walking trail, and we have a conference room, 5,000 square foot facility in a timeline museum.
I love it. Okay, how about this one? Do you all do something to commemorate the day of the bombing? Is that some kind of holiday? Not holiday, I don't know what to call it, but you know what I'm saying? Do y'all do something or something?
I know what you're saying.
His birthday or anything.
Okay. So we got the former Senator Dorothy Hukill. She passed away from cancer. She designated December 15th as the Harry T. and Harry V. Moore Day, right? The NAACP in December, they also commemorate him at the gravesite. So we have different events. Yes, we do. Okay. We just don't have no one specific day, but we do a lot of things. And now the school, Brevard School, gave us a proclamation and they apologized for the unjust firing of the Moors, and they just reinstated them to a merited position where now we helped with them with the curriculum in school. And not only that, now all 8th graders have to come here for a field trip. So I'm proud to tell you that we just saw over 5,000 students, right? We just finished in the month of May, but it's great because they have to learn their history, right?
Yeah, I love it. Okay, let's stay on this just some more. So you all, when did the museum come to be? What's the founding of it? That kind of thing.
Okay, so in 2004, well, first of all, some people, old timers that was former teachers with Evangeline and with the Moors, they got together and they had like a little memorial on this land, right? And then they got together and they wanted to do something. So they put together a board, then they got a 501c3, and then they went looking for grants and stuff. So 2004 is when everything was coming to be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. When, so you all are a pillar of the community. Everybody down there know you, what you do, and y'all have events other than, celebrating that. And so that's where everybody comes to congregate and
Anthony, sadly, right? That's not so. So many people live here, born and raised here, and don't know anything about the Moors or don't want to know anything about the Moors. And so it's been our mission to share the legacy of the Moors, right? So I do it through speaking engagements. We do it through storytelling. We do it through exhibits here, and we do it. So our staff here has been instrumental in thinking outside of the box, right? Yes. So now we have annual antique car show. Okay. Because Harry T. Moore had a 1947 Ford Model A. That's another whole genre of people that we would have never touched. Yes. We have a 5K running walk through the board. They have that. We have health fairs. We have concerts. So we come out of the box for a lot of things. And then we have a lot of cultural events too, right? We put on programs for like Men on a Mission, Strategies of Successful Women. So we have a Majestus Tea annual event. So we do a lot of things like that. However, one thing that I'm really proud of, we adopted some schools. So we on a SAC program. I love it. We mentor students. We just do a lot, right? Okay. We write for different papers. We put it like this. I make sure, or we try to ensure that we always in the media, magazines, books, we try our best. And if you look up Parent Magazine, I was most proud of this as well. Parent Magazine, the February edition of 2022, it said 12 African Americans influential couples. They got Jay-Z and Beyonce. They got John Johnson and his wife. They got Magic and Cookie and some others. And let me tell you something. They had Harriet. I thought I would lose my mind. I sent it to everybody I knew.
I love it. Let me do this one. Are there other stories of some sort in that area that you
Oh,
want to?
it's
I
a
know you
lot
have
of,
a bunch of them, and just share
yeah, it's a
something
lot of
like this
stories.
happened, that happened, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they have one, the last lynching that took place in Melbourne,
Which is how
um,
far?
that's about 30 minutes away from us,
Okay.
right? It was called on Lynching Tree. That's a story. Then they have another thing that they're working on now called Crane Creek. They found out that Melbourne was discovered by slaves, and they working on that now to get a monument up there because no one's been telling that story correctly.
Okay.
And not only that, we're not far from Rosewood. We're not far from
really? Okay.
right.
Okay.
We're not far from Central Florida on that side where they just burned down the whole towns, right? Ocoee. We're not far from those places. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got a lady on the channel it was her great uncle that they accused of assaulting the white lady in Rosewood.
Was that Jenkins?
Yep.
Lizzie Jenkins.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah,
her
she
on
came
the
here
channel.
as well.
Everybody watch that one. This is incredible. What's your good day? What's a good day for you when somebody comes in and you open their eyes?
Okay, that's a great question. So a good day for me is when youth comes, like we have different organizations like Jack and Jill, the Boys and Girls Club, organizations with youth. Older people, I love when they come as well, but they can relate to the story. But when the youth come, and especially again, all youth, right? But when they get that click in their eyes and they really realize that, because I make them take their hoods off. I want them to understand that when they learn about the Underground Railroad quilt, see, when they stole us from Africa, we wasn't dumb, ignorant people, right?
That's right.
We couldn't speak the same language because we had different dialects, right?
That's right.
So when they brought us over here, we outsmarted the slave masters because how did we communicate to each other? Well, we did it through signs and symbols. So when we built those quilts, that's how so many slaves escaped because they understood what the wheel was, where the turn at, what the sailboat was, what house to go to. And we put it right under his nose on the clothesline. And they had no idea of what we were saying to each other.
That's right.
So stuff like that just gets me excited because you changing the mindset and the paradigm shift in their mind about that we was just some animals coming from Africa to work and be laborers. No, we were smart, intelligent people with our own places, right? I love that. That's a good day for me. I love that.
Just a couple more. Are there plantations near there?
Jacksonville is the Kingsley Plantation in Jacksonville.
Yep. I got
that's not far. I think that's about 2 hours away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there if people come to visit, is there a particular big weekend? Like, is it Juneteenth, or is there another weekend that y'all celebrate or recognize as Emancipation Day? Because I got people on the channel, they recognize May 20th.
Exactly. And we do too. May 20th is the original date for Emancipation Proclamation. Now we have a sign up. We haven't done anything because, to be honest with you, it's only really 2 of us. We just hired another person. We can't do everything, right? Yeah. So when they get through their mind that we need more people on the payroll to help us, we make it look easy, but it's a lot of work behind the scenes, right? Sure. So that's one of our struggles. But I'm hoping that we get a grant to have time to write a grant that we can have a big festival again. Because they used to have a big festival about 10 years ago, but then that died down. But I think we need to. But we are working with the city of Cocoa for a big Juneteenth celebration that they have. So we've been a lot of consulting with different people, with our councilmen and people like that. Yeah. So we have our hands in a lot of things.
As we come to a close, what is the website? Let's promote it. Get people come on down. They can donate some money. People in that area can come volunteer. Let's close.
Oh, yes. So our website is the board's website, but it's www.harryharrietmoore.org. right? Now, remember, we're with the county. So if anyone donate to us, they need to make it out to the Memorial Park Cultural Center, Parks and Recreation, right? And we have now a line item where we can get those donations and do programming for the museum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And volunteers, we definitely need that. We're trying to work on a list and to get more people to help, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Well, hey, I thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. It's been great.
You coming on, and I can tell you a storyteller because you tell it in a story kind of way. You make it sound, you make it come real.
Yeah.
You make it real. I can tell it's in your passion.
Yes.
So I say to you with this, and I mean this with all sincerity, so sister, I mean this. I want you to stay strong.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Stay on your grind. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
I feel it. And I know people watch this gonna feel it. Everybody, go to that website. Go down there, give them a call, and tell them you saw it. And that you want to help somehow. Do that. They need, like everybody. We need the room. They need more, but they doing a lot with what they got. And then also. Everybody hit the subscribe button, on the channel, hit the like button and all that good stuff. Hit a button, I don't care what button, read my book, watch my movie and all that. But I'm coming down there.
Come on and visit us.
I want to meet you. I'm coming down there. I'm gonna hook something up and we'll make it happen. I say that. Any closing remark? How about that one?
Well, stay on the lookout.
Mantra that you live by? How about something like that?
Okay, well, you know what? The mantra that I live by is be the voice for the voiceless.
How old was he when they killed him? How old was he?
He was 46.
So he was young.
He was young, yes.
Did they have kids?
2 daughters.
Have you met them?
I met Evangeline, the baby girl. Peaches had already died.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Anthony. Look forward to seeing you.
You got it. Bye-bye. We out.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah.